What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Wrestling Hour after a 1-week sabbatical. It is Dave Sturchio. It is Josh Shernoff. We're coming to you first on adfreeshows.com. And, of course, all of our awesome subscribers over there. And, of course, if you want to wait a day, you can do that. And you can join us over on the MyFandom YouTube channel as well. Josh, I know we spoke briefly in pre. You would ask me how I'm feeling. I don't want to get back into more details or I'm going to get nauseous again. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. I did not fall violently ill like you did.
My
so
God.
Between that and my traveling, I was down in Florida. You can tell by I'd call it a tan, but let's call it red. But I got some sun, which was nice. I'd say a little relaxation, but I was there with my kids.
So you did not attend the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl parade? Is that fair assessment?
No. And here's the thing though. I have watched the Eagles in the Super Bowl 3 times now, right? In recent,
yes.
We'll say in recent years. And 2 of those times were in Florida. One of those times was here in Pennsylvania. Guess which time we lost? So from now on, I will be in Florida every single time the Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
That's perfect, because then that means you never have to go to Florida again. Anyway.
Listen, wow.
Yes, bitter Cowboys fans coming through today. I've switched the hats over to my New York Knicks for now.
No, it's nice to see you abandon the Cowboys.
Yeah, listen, there's only so much bashing I can take. So kudos to the Eagles and their fan base. I know you guys are, I want to say 99% of you people are vile, disgusting human beings. But for that 1%, like a Josh or a couple other friends of the program, the Blue Meanie, guys like that, like you guys are good people. Simon Diamond is another one that comes to mind, and Kevin Keenan. Those guys, I can tolerate you guys. I can.
Kevin's vile. I love Kevin. He is vile, but I love Kevin. Listen.
So anyway, good for you guys.
It was exciting for all of us. I will never pretend that Philadelphia fans are perfect. They are. They're sports fans, and but Philadelphia, I will never understand. I will never understand for as long as I live, which based on my complexion will be moments left. I will never understand the idea of our team won. I'm so happy. Let me smash someone's property. So I'm sorry. It's a
special kind of stupid. It really is.
If you were celebrating the Eagles win by destroying anything, you're an idiot.
Listen, look, it could be so much worse. I mean, I think luckily there was only 2 guns involved in the parade as well, and it looks like your GM was pelted with a beer can, and it left a scar while he couldn't even.
Nick Aldis?
Speech. No, not that GM.
He's my GM.
But we got plenty of GM stuff to talk about because we are all systems go on the road to WrestleMania. WWE has absolutely dialed it up. We have the Elimination Chamber coming up next Saturday, which is going to be a great pay-per-view. They're really stacking that up. I'm very surprised at a couple things. I guess we can kind of start that way. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to cover, obviously, within the hour, but I'm very surprised that they're going KO Sami Zayn for this, considering I thought for sure it was going to be a WrestleMania match.
I still think it's going to be a WrestleMania match. So I think this is just step 1 in the process of getting to a bigger WrestleMania match.
I'm cool with that.
I'm not surprised. Listen, they're in the Sky Dome, whatever now it's called, the Rogers Center or whatever. It's the Sky Dome. Okay. So this is this has hosted 2 WrestleManias. This is a massive location. And I don't know, look, maybe they're going to section off part of it or whatever. I don't know what their plans are with it, but this is a big deal. And WWE is in the business now of making these PLEs like, okay, WrestleMania is always going to be WrestleMania. Your tentpole events are always going to be a little bit more special, but they're making things like Elimination Chamber and anything like a Backlash in another country. And so they're trying to make all of these like SummerSlam level, maybe pre SummerSlam going to 2 nights. Cause now SummerSlam is WrestleMania level, right? So it's, it's crazy. But I think we're done with the, let's save it for, unless it, like they've wrestled so many times before. And I feel like this is going to be a step towards a Mania match between the two. But then the question is, what's bigger for them, right? Is it a Mania match, or is it going home to Canada, going to Toronto, where both of their careers pretty much started in that area, and then get to wrestle at the Skydome? You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah, like you're saying, I don't know how you one up your homecoming, really. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you one up that, but I guess, you know, when it is WrestleMania and it's in Vegas and they're going to be looking to fill two nights worth of just jam-packed action, you can slightly slide in a KO Sami Zayn match somewhere. But this one is very, very big as well. And I understand that obviously we'll make our full predictions next week where it makes sense leading up to it. But the fields are set as far as the chamber matches, which are stacked and they can go any way.
Did you see Drew's tweet?
I did not.
It's a retweet and response to the graphic with everybody in there, and he's clearly referencing Logan Paul because he just tweeted a picture of, I guess it's just a bunch of army men and a clown all lined up with their guns, and it's like clearly like, you know, one of these things not like the other, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Logan Paul, you can't say enough about the guy. I didn't listen to it yet, but he had Michael Cole on this week. I'm actually interested to hear a little bit of Michael Cole with the layers peeled back a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really get candid Michael Cole. You get a lot of, you'll get a lot of his documentary stuff, but we'll stay on the documentary side of things. Before we get to, I got to ask you, because I don't know if you caught it yet, because I know you've been traveling and stuff. Did you catch the first episode of the LFG WWE show?
I thought that was your show, LFG.
It used to be, actually.
And no, I haven't yet. I've seen the clips and stuff that have kind of made the rounds. I haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it. I love that concept. I still don't like listening to The Undertaker like be normal. It bothers me.
Oh man,
he was the last holdout. Like, I don't know. Something about it. It's just, I don't know. But
I get where you're coming from, but there's like, in my mind, like, just to give everybody not a spoiler or anything like that, but the first episode, they have, obviously there's the men and the women, and the 4 coaches are Mickey James, Booker T, Bubba Ray, and The Undertaker. And if you stand out on night 1 and you win your first night based off of your judgment of the 4 judges, and you are declared the winner of the first night, you get to pick your coach. The other ones are going to have to kind of go like drafted and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, if you win and you don't pick The Undertaker as your coach and mentor, you're insane. And believe it or not, somebody didn't. And I'm just like,
what? You know what?
Like, all right, for instance, the guy who didn't, right? I forget his name. It's actually Maxine Dupree's boyfriend.
Okay.
And he picks Booker T. He says stylistically and size-wise,
that's what I was just going to say.
My guy. And I'm like, yeah, but if you want to talk about learning tree, like, to me, I don't know, maybe this is like a little bit of a segue into a top list, but like, to me, if I'm going to learn professional wrestling 101 from anybody, Taker has to be in the top 2 of that conversation. No,
I mean, he's up there, but it's, for me, like, thinking about when I was training and stuff, and I, starting out my training with the Samoans, there was always kind of I remember thinking there's like a little bit of a disconnect because I'm not going to wrestle like a Samoan. I'm 5'8", like,
you're also not Samoan.
I'm not technically Samoan, no. But I'm an honorary Oos.
Oh, all right.
Before it was all the rage in a t-shirt. But no, I do remember also at the same time, one of the things that I remember talking to them about was Billy Kidman, who trained at the Wild Samoan Training Center, the same one that I did in Allentown, and looking at it and going, okay, like that was because my first fear was like, I'm going to learn to work like a giant Samoan. And then I was like,
drop
okay,
everybody with headbutts.
Yeah,
headbutts
I'm like,
shit.
okay, this worked for Billy Kidman. I guess it can work for me as well, But so I look at someone like The Undertaker, and from a knowledge standpoint, yeah. But the one thing is, like, could and look, you're looking at guys like from my size, you're looking at Bubba and Booker and The Undertaker, just as far as the men go, and you're like, are any of them going to be able to? None of them can speak from firsthand experience of what it's like to work as a 5'8" guy, right? So in that world, I'd rather have a guy like, Shawn Michaels, of course, of course, that'd be amazing. But Shawn Michaels is the type of guy who, while I know he's not 5'8", he's also, not to burst anyone's bubble, not 6 feet. So I'd be more inclined to go, okay, let me get someone like him. Let me get somebody who's on the smaller side who can be like, okay, here's how you need to sell up. Here's how you need to work.
Do you think
style.
that works? Do you think that works opposite as well? Like, let's just pretend like I'm 6'1.5", 265. I'm not going to work like you. You think I would benefit more from working with a Bubba Ray or something like that, where he's like my size, my build? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing stylistically for a trainee to kind of come in?
I don't think it's like a hard and fast rule, right? Like, that's not to say that, Bubba couldn't teach me. Like, of course he could. Of course he has 1,000,001 things to teach me that he's forgotten more than I'll ever know, right? Like, I get that.
Right.
But if you're really like comparing things, I do think a guy like Bubba could at least, Bubba can go, hey, I remember being in there with guys like Taker and guys like Kane. I remember having to be the smaller guy. So he could do that to me. But then he can also turn around and go to you and go, I remember throwing Spike Dudley all around, right? Like, there's but again, which is not to say that The Undertaker would look at a guy my size and go, oh, gee, I just don't know how to teach a guy like that. Like, no, like obviously he knows what he's doing, right? Like, he knows how to put both pieces together, both sides of it. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I get the idea, I guess is what I'm saying. I get the idea of choosing someone other than Undertaker if you feel like this guy knows what to do with someone like me.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. And like I said, the guy he backed it up and said, stylistically, size-wise, this makes more sense. And I was like, from that, I was like, yeah, all right, I get it. But like, the cool thing about this show, LFG, is that it's very, very Tough Enough-esque, which I was a big fan of Tough Enough, specifically more in the beginning of the Tough Enough days, where like when all of a sudden they started winding up on SmackDown, like that whole Ryback and the Miz, and that I never really got into it. To me, that wasn't
tough
like
enough.
We got Bob Holly beating the shit out of the one guy. It's like,
well, that was still from like the early Tough Enough with Matt
but no, I feel like, Cavatelli, I remember him. Yeah,
Bob Holly's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Whatever.
I saw a clip about that.
Bob Holly's one of the most unlikable people in the history of wrestling.
I saw a clip
about his face and fuck him.
I saw a clip. I'm just waiting until he's a little bit older and more broken down, and then I'll be comfortable saying it.
While he's in a chair and shit, like, yeah, what's up?
I'm waiting for wheelchair Bob Holly, and then although he'd still somehow outrun.
He'd probably still wrap something around your head.
But no, but it was a bullshit thing. It was him bullying, and anybody who anyone who pretends otherwise, I'll never. And we don't need to get into a whole thing with this, but I think you and I have talked about this. Like, there's no place for it in wrestling. I do believe there's a place for trying to break somebody, like to make sure they want it. But that's not how you do it, because that's
right.
Not,
I mean,
it should.
If you remember if you remember the famous speech from Triple H, when he's talking to all those guys, right? And he's just like,
your nuts hanging out.
Your nuts are hanging out your pants, but like, just like just basically informing them like, hey, this is a lifestyle. It's about to change your world, blah blah blah. But he's not like out there fucking slapping them up and shit. You know what I mean? Like there's a method to the madness, and I think that there
is enough in this industry, especially back then. The hardest parts of wrestling were not in the ring by any stretch of the imagination. Those were not the hardest parts of being in that business. So why are you trying to beat someone up and take liberties? I've always had an issue with, like, if I'm going to give you my body and you're in a position like Bob Holly there, Bob Holly knew damn well that no one was going to try and fight him back. Right. He knew they were going to take it. And that to me is being a bully. That's being a little bitch, right? Like there's no 100%. Other way around it, because it's not like he said, hey, you and I are going to have a legit fight right now. Because who knows? Matt Cappotelli may have knocked his ass out, right? You don't know. And the thing is, everyone has a puncher's chance, right? So you never know. But to just be like, oh, here's a kid who I know is being, first of all, filmed for television right now and has this opportunity. There's no way he's going to fight back. He's not going to want to complain about it. And then they're going to give him a hard time because he has a camera in his face where he's like, dealing with it after the fact. It's like, dude, no one was watching Bob Holly while he was probably crying in his hotel room, after, the getting called Sparky Plug. but he didn't have a camera in his face.
Spark plug Holly. Anyway, so like I was saying, LFG show has very tough enough ties to it with a new age spin, meaning, you're going to get those guys that think their shit don't stink. You're going to get the people that are brand new. That's the cool part about this, I think, is that there's people that have been at the PC for a little while and they got shows to be on this show. And then there's people that have literally walked in the front door and said, hey, I want to be a wrestler. So there's like multiple levels of skill, experience. And I think that's the cool part about this. They're going to divide them up and make them work matches and this, that, and the third. It's going to be a really cool series. I thought it was a very cool way to start it up. You're going to get your Billy Ray where he's going to get in your face and not kind of, not be Bob Holly, but kind of just like, hey man, you got to earn everything here. Like, let's not be buddies. And there's one guy, I forget his name. Obviously, it's
BJ something or another, whatever.
Him. Him. That dude, look, I don't care if you're the most gifted athlete, to ever walk this earth. If you walk into a professional wrestling ring, specifically a WWE Performance Center ring, and you start acting a fool, if you're dialing it up for the cameras and you were told to do that, then I get it. But I got a feeling
he may have been. I don't know.
But I also have this inkling that he's a prick.
I'm sure he is. But they probably were like, go be a prick. That's why we want you on the show.
And what's funny is this is a true story. Like, as it happened, like him and Bubba had some kind of words in exchange, right? And before the kid left the ring, Taker in the first episode was like, hey man, hold on one second. And he backs in. Yeah. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? And I was like,
this seemed like a good idea. Yeah.
I was like, dude, he's going to murk this dude. Like, he's going to absolutely destroy him.
The one thing that killed me, though, was Bubba going, I have more championships than you have, whatever, a shower time or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Bubba, because he would be the first person to go, oh, championships. You got championships? Who cares? It's like, I get the point he was making, but I was like, come on, Bubba. Like,
on the fly.
Yeah.
He probably, after he said it, he was probably like, yeah, that wasn't what I was going for. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, even Bubba knows better than that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe more of I got more shower time than you have ring time, right? Like, maybe something better. Right. I have more championships. Like,
the easiest one to say is I've forgotten more than you know. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
which
that's
is true.
Easy one. Which is very true.
Based on his knowledge and chair shots. So, it's
but yeah, the show seems to be off to the right track. Earlier today, as we're recording this on a Tuesday evening, it was some breaking news with the WWE ID program.
That was something I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
I was very excited to see it. Excited also as a new promoter kind of like, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? What that means is there's
Brother,
twofold.
my rate just went up.
That is 1,000% going to be a thing.
Yeah, by the way, I interviewed a WWE ID guy, so I feel like my rate for commentary
same
just went up.
Just
because that guy could be champion, and then it's like, dude, I kind of like interviewed the champion, and like maybe it was me that made this happen, right? So
look,
I'm quadrupling my rate.
Triple H came out with the 2 championship belts, obviously one for the men, one for the women. The WWE ID is going to have a champion determined from a tournament across multiple independent promotions. Now, to me, Josh, independent promotions scream ROW for Booker T. It screams maybe a relationship, maybe with GCW, considering there's a couple of them down there. Maybe Evolve.
I think they own Evolve now, but like,
they're coming. They're technically an indie,
Yeah,
so,
but
I think it's going to be a little sketch to start because the first thing I'm thinking
I think it's going to be any of the ID places. That's it. Maybe a GCW as well, but any of the ID places.
I would hope, as a promoter, that I'm like selected as like one of the, hey, listen, if it's okay with you, like somebody's gonna say, nah, brother, you know what I mean? Like if Triple H gives me a call and says, hey, Dave, I heard this Fight Factory thing is pretty cool. Do you mind if we crown our champion on the beach in July? I'm not gonna be like, well, like, yeah, of course, of course. But there are gonna be some people that, unfortunately, and this is just the nature of the business, this is the nature of any sport or competition, the people are going to start to feel a little entitled, like, can't lose tonight, brother. The WWE ID is on me. Or, same thing like you just said, the rate went up a little bit, bro. Like,
they're going to weed that shit out real quick.
I hope so, because for me at least, you're not getting an extra dime. I don't give a fuck. Like, who's IDing you? Like, that's an honor for you to withhold that, and it's a prestige and all that good stuff that comes with it. I'm just not going to look at it I'm not going to look at
the bonus is you're giving them a payday. You're booking them because of the ID. You're not paying them more because of the ID.
I was considering booking Marcus Mathers before the WWE ID thing, but then we met him and I'm like, wow, what a really like swell individual this guy is. We get to interview him and it was fresh off the ID thing. And I'm like, I would love to have this kid. You know what I mean? Not because of the WWE ID thing.
I want to review the footage of that interview so I can pinpoint exactly by looking at your face when you were like, what a swell guy.
It was pretty much the entire time.
No, he was great. I mean,
he's
he's talented as all hell, and did not have the ID thing, any ego from that whatsoever, which
not at all. Not at all.
And hopefully that's, of course there will. And that's, look, it's the way it is. And I
don't even know how many IDs they gave out. Honestly, I don't even know if there was like I'm going
to get a WWE fake ID. That's what I want,
dude. Oh my, you just gave me a really good idea. Okay. I'm going to keep that to myself, but that's a really good, it's a very good idea. But yeah, like I think, if I had to look at this WWE ID structure on what they're planning on doing, and the WWE is now going to be cruising around the independents, you would think that this would up the game of everybody around the independents, right? I already try to tell people on the regular, like, I put a status up the other day and it got good feedback, but then like, some people were joking around, but I said, how is it that it's 2025 and we're still looking at, quote, professional wrestlers that don't know what the inside of a gym even remotely looks like? You know what I mean?
Like they know a guy named Jim.
Right. It's like you have to look the part. And now, more than ever, there are so many eyes wandering around the independents. And I'm not just talking about GCW and ROW. There could be smaller independent. There could be Fight Factory people. There could be WrestlePro. There could be all these other independent companies that have ties to people. Maybe not so much WrestlePro because it's like, AEW light over there. But you know what I mean? Like, but what I'm saying is you now have eyes floating everywhere. You got to up your game. I don't see this as detrimental at all. Do you see any negatives to this?
Other than no, honestly, no, because even the people who try and milk it to make more money off it, that just exposes who they are at the core of them. and weeds them out, in my opinion. This business desperately needs, we've talked about it in the media side of things, right? But in the locker room as well, this business needs a new version of weeding out the fans, right? Because fans can be in the locker room now. There are a ton of them. We've seen them. Fans can be in the press box. There are a ton of them. We've seen them. So I hope that that this starts to move more in a direction of we can see you. You're showing us your hand. You're showing us that you're not cut out for this line of work. And, hopefully, look, there's so many promotions out there that are so bad, that are just abysmal. They have no business even putting on a wrestling show, and yet they do. And people, still go and work for them. And it's just, I hope that this helps. I hope this ID thing, look, not everyone's going to be an WWE ID company. And first of all, I think you have to have a school, and there's, definitely aspects to it. But I'm not saying if you're not a WWE ID indie that you aren't on the level or even better than some of the WWE ID indies. But I'm hoping that it starts to weed things out. Like, I'm hoping that
right.
a couple of years from now, people are looking at Fight Factory, for instance, and if it's not already, they're looking at it going, dude, why isn't this place a WWE ID, right? Like, that should be every indie's goal, to be a WWE ID. And that was my thought when I saw the belts, right? When I saw Triple H put that out there. I think that it's a step in the right direction because WWE is they lead everything. They lead the way. They lead the entire business. Wherever they are, that's where WWE's going downhill. Everything's going downhill. Whether you think so or not, everything's going downhill. They're going up, makes the business better. AEW doesn't matter in that regard. They're a great side thing. That's wonderful. But AEW, if WWE went down the tubes, AEW would go even lower than they already are because, well, we'll get into that another time. But, but look at the championships behind me. Not belts, but championships, because they were held by Matt Cardona. The concept that we had for both of these championships is similar in nature to the concept of the WWE ID as it relates to independent wrestling. The championship, which hand is that? Yeah, we go. This one right here.
Right. That's your right. Yeah.
The wrestling. Well, but my thing's not mirrored.
I'm helping you out.
Okay. So over here, the Wrestling Showcase Championship, the idea was we took the best of the best indie wrestlers, and that included a lot of TNA guys at the time because they weren't exclusive, they could work. So the best of the best indie wrestlers, and the idea was the winner, who ended up being Matt Cardona, would take that championship with them for a year everywhere, all over the independents, and show the world, like, I'm the Wrestling Showcase champion. So the idea is now the next year, the next time there's a Wrestling Showcase event, it's once again the best of the best who go like, hey, Cardona's the best in the indies. I want to carry that belt now because that belt is synonymous with the best wrestlers in the world.
So
right?
was that supposed to be more a Super Bowl trophy rather than a defendable championship? Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
Then we shifted gears when I was a part of Premier Streaming Network, and we created this one here, the Premier Streaming Network Championship. The concept there starts to get closer to the WWE ID concept. Then someone's going like, he's comparing that to WWE championships. No, I'm not. But the idea was we were a network that had maybe 20 something different promotions, 25, 30, something like that, different promotions airing on our network at the time, right? The concept, which was put forth at the Wrestling Showcase event, again, the second Wrestling Showcase event, the concept there was you can defend this championship at any promotion that is on this network. It was pretty much like a TV title, but one that made sense. It was it was territory system for the digital age. That was our selling point, right? To a lot of the promoters. That's what we were saying. The idea of that was you have this, you can defend it in different places. Now there are some companies that like were on our network and just didn't understand it. They're like, oh, well, that's not our title. It's like, no, you idiot, right? Like, but then there were some that really did understand it.
Right.
And that's why, you know, Cardona won it. He lost it to EC3 at one promotion. EC3 then defended it at another promotion, and it was, you know, and then we ended up stripping it when, you know, there was no reason, and it became the I guess unofficial like the spiritual successor would be the Premier Fight Factory Championship, right?
Yeah. That's
kind
exactly
of like
what we did.
Spiritual successor, not, you know.
Yeah, we wanted, that's what we did with Fight Factory. We wanted Premier to be a little homage into like the name Premier into the championship, and everybody and their sister will say like world title, world this, world that. Ours is Fight Factory's Premier champion.
Yeah,
like that.
And I love
that's our guy. That's our girl. That's and we stuck to it. But
yeah.
I know you and I have talked multiple times about bringing the showcase back and, you know, trying to get something. I believe that's a thing.
Yeah.
It will always be a thing. I think that's a great idea, but just to kind of put you know, kind of wrap it around with what Triple H is trying to do, I think this is a great thing for independent wrestling. I think this should dial up everybody. And like you said before, I think it should absolutely weed out the dog shit. And that's all I've been ever barking about is to try to weed out bad wrestling. Because if you weed that out, man, wrestling just becomes so much better.
But that was also the point that I was trying to get to. And, you know, I took a sharp left and went in a different direction. But the point that I was trying to get to with it, of the similarities, was the concept behind the championship. Was that territory, what it was the thread that went from promotion to promotion. Because the idea that we had, and this is something that streaming networks that I've worked for in the past, numerous, have this same challenge, which is how do we get, like, okay, hey, we've got this great GCW that everyone watches, but what about this one over here? Oh, we got Wrestling Revolver over here, but what about this one? So the idea was you want to make all of your clients, you know, if you're a TV network, right, or a streaming network, you want all of your shows to do well. You don't want to be like, oh man, it's great, these are doing well, I'm fine with those kind of sucking. No, like if it's quality, you want them all to do well. So it was the concept of, and I just said Wrestling Revolver and GCW. So let's say, for hypothetically speaking, let's say GCW does, and they, for all I know, they do less, right? But let's say they do double the viewership of a Wrestling Revolver, okay? The concept with the championship in that regard for us was, well, we know everyone's watching on GCW. They just watched this great match for it. Now let's defend it on Wrestling Revolver. And all those people who just got exposed to this championship, maybe they start following the championship. Maybe they don't watch every Revolver show. But if that championship's going to be defended on it, like, I kind of have to follow where that goes. And I think that's what WWE is going to be able to do with the WWE ID Championship, where you're going to look at it, which is only going to help places like Triller TV, right? It's only going to help those places, because if they're the ones airing this, all of a sudden you have all these people going to a place like Triller to watch it, or going to this, or buying tickets to this promotion, where now, guess what? The talent that is there that is not WWE ID, they're now maybe getting to work a bigger house than maybe they ever have before, because the WWE ID Championship's being defended on that show. And so to me, to go back to what you're saying, that connective tissue is so exciting as a fan and as somebody in the business to see. And WWE having that fingerprint on the independent scene is only going to help build independent wrestling, which is going to help nurture the future of the WWE and pro wrestling as a whole.
Yeah. And like I said, it's another swing and contact and back. It's gone. Another home run for WWE. I think this is a great idea for them, and they just keep doing the greatest things that, you know, that are out there. That anything innovative that you think of, and like, when, you know, for me, all this does for me personally, as a entrepreneur and also as a wrestling promoter and somebody that wants to leave a legacy in this business. And you know, for me, I was like, oh, it's gonna be in ring. I'm gonna be the next fucking Brock Lesnar. You wait, I'll show you. Right?
It was
And, well, yeah, him too. Yeah, whatever. You know, for me, I just knew it was never gonna be in the cards, just because I knew what was around me. Right? I knew like the surround. I remember watching Anthony Bowens come in for the first day, and I was just like, oh, I'm screwed. You know, like they're just like, I can't fucking lace his boots. There's no way. And then you move the commentary, and me and you are having the time of our lives at some of these promotions, and
still are, man. By the
still
way,
are, yeah,
still
absolutely,
are.
still are. It's all great, but when I think about it, I'm like, how do I really, really, really want to leave this place when it's all said and done? I want to start, and I started it already. Fight Factory Wrestling was born almost a year ago today, as we record this. Wow. It'll be a year old on 2/22. But I feel like the legacy I want to leave is as a promoter and as somebody who built something from the ground up. And I really, truly believe that with WWE doing this, all this did for me was saying, like, step your game up, dude. Step that friggin' game up, because if you don't, you will be left in the dust behind you. And guess what? They won't care that you're behind them. You know what I mean? Like, they won't. They're like, ah, man, Fight Factory, that was cool for a second, but then they fell off because Dave lost his mind. You know what I mean? Like, I think and trust me, there's been days I want to lose my mind, but you surround yourself with the right people in this business. And while this sounds and feels like a rant, it kind of is. But like,
it's a good thing it's your show, because who gives a shit, right?
Yeah, well, that's true too. But like, I just feel like this benefits everybody, and if it hit home with me multiple times over in the last like 48 hours, seeing the LFG show, seeing the WWE ID thing.
You know what it does for you? Like, in my mind, at least, what it does for somebody like you, who's a young promoter, right? To me, it makes, when I was promoting TWF back in the day, my thought was always, I never was like, one day I'll be like WWE. Like, no, that was never my thought. My thought was, one day I want to be like OVW. And nowadays, I wanted to be the feeder system. That's what I wanted it to build to. And nowadays with WWE ID, it almost like WWE has come to you and said, like, hey, Dave, here's a ring to go for, right? Like, you're not just, hey, I'm going to build something in my own little area here. You can look at it and go, that's my goal. If it is, and it doesn't have to be, and it's okay for promotions for that to not be their goal. But WWE has created this ability for you to have a goal. And I wanted to just, if I could, I wanted to send a thank you and a shout out to a gentleman named Bill Bain. He is the Three Legacies Wrestling, Ricardo Rodriguez's promotion. He is the world champion. Recently just won the world championship.
Congratulations, Bill. Yes.
Bill Bain put out a tweet the other day, which meant the world to me. He thanked me he was like 23 years ago tomorrow. So it was 23 years ago yesterday as we're recording this. He's like, at So Says Shernoff took a chance on me and gave me my first match. It was at a TWF show. And he was like, you know, and all the things that I've done, and he's like thanking me for it. And you're talking about legacy, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking the first time that I was, do you remember when Kurt Angle was feuding with Baron Corbin, and Corbin thought he caught Kurt Angle, and he rips off the conquistador mask, and it's that random dude? That was Bill Bain. And I'm sitting at home, and I'm watching this, and they rip it off, and like my brain like didn't know how to comprehend, right? Because I'm like, nowhere in my mind am I thinking Bill Bain, who I hadn't seen in years at that point. All of a sudden, there's Bill Bain's face staring at me on the screen. I'm like, what? And Bill ended up being one of the extras at Drew McIntyre's entrance at WrestleMania this year. He was one of the people lined up there with the swords and all that stuff. And he's done such cool stuff. And now being world champion at Ricardo Rodriguez, who, by the way, I think the world of him, awesome dude. But being champion of his promotion stuff, is that a legacy for me? No. But I get to look at that and to know I never even would have given myself any form of credit. I don't deserve any credit. I booked a guy, right? But in my mind, I'm looking at that going, maybe I actually had the opportunity that I gave this guy that start that he needed. So he's been able to experience all these things. And if at the end of the day, the only thing I've ever done in this business of any worth was playing a tiny role in helping that guy get to live out his dreams. I mean, listen, man, there are worse things you can do with your life than have the tiniest assistance in someone else getting to live their dream. So when you talk about legacy and stuff, it's a really cool thing to turn around as a promoter and go like, man, I'm glad I gave them that shot. You know, Kevin Matthews just posted something about what's her name from AEW.
The girl.
Yeah, who just wrestled Mercedes Moné.
Danny something?
What does she go by? I don't know what she goes by now, and I feel terrible. But you and I called her first match ever. We didn't even know it was her first match. I didn't know that until Kevin posted this the other day. And he was like, I guess Scarlett. I think it was Scarlett was like,
I wonder why I didn't see it on Facebook.
Oh, you must not have logged in at the same time. But
hey, to full transparency, I wished him a happy birthday on Instagram, and he said thank you. So like, that bridge, that little tiny little thing, it's you know.
No, but look, but I think that's so cool when I look at that, and it's something that Kevin has that, you know, feather in his cap. Scarlett, I believe it was Scarlett, and if it wasn't, then I'm giving her credit. But Scarlett,
sure it was Scarlett.
Okay, asked him like, please give her match. It's her first match, but I promise it's going to be good, and it was really good. And now to see her just a couple years later wrestling, you know, in Australia for
Down Under,
Mercedes Moné and all that stuff. Like, to me, like I look at that and I go, that's the type of stuff when you talk about legacy. I know I'm rambling here now too, but that's stuff when you talk about legacy, that someone like Scarlett, like she's got to look at something like that. Kevin's got to look at something like that and go like, all right, that's a pretty cool thing. If nothing else, look at her. And I played a role in that. And that's not about giving yourself credit, but it's about being able to be genuinely proud of this other person and glad that you contributed in a positive manner, right?
And to bring it all like full circle, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, for instance, Kevin Matthews and her first opportunity, right? But then you take a guy like, let's just, for example, for a massive example, Danny Moff.
Love him.
Danny Moff has been in the professional wrestling business for over he's wrestled in 4 decades, if not 5. No bullshit. And there's been times where me and Moff have had heart-to-hearts, and he just feels like the appreciation wasn't there from certain companies, whoever. And he's wrestled for the who's who of professional wrestling across the independents.
When you've wrestled as many times as many places as Danny Moff, you are going to have some bad experiences. It's just
right,
the odds,
right, and
that's
that's just math, right? And I remember when we told him that he was going to be our first champion, bro. When I tell you, when it actually happened, and he's in the back, and you saw him back there, he's an emotional mess. And I'm like, you good? He's like, I can't thank you guys enough for believing in me. I'm like, believing in you, Moff? What the fuck? Like, what? Like, dude, you are you. And I remember it was very early on in my career. And people know the story. I'm sure you do too. Kevin Keenan was a referee for one of my matches, and I came through the curtain after my match is done. And he goes, man, you definitely have this good look about you. Your gear is cool. Everything's cool. You got a little mohawk going on. Things are working for you. Get yourself some wrestling boots, bro. Like you have these Everlast Brock Lesnar wrestling shoes halfway up your leg or whatever. And that's what you're going. He goes, get yourself some boots. And I'm just like, man, I can't afford boots, right? Danny Moff was the one that gave me a pair of boots that he no longer wore, just gave them to me. And I had to, adjust them a little bit. But, he tells me, he's like, those boots wrestled Foley in Japan. Those boots wrestled Punk. Those boots wrestled, New Jack, whatever. He did all these crazy matches, and he said, these are yours now, right? And I'll never forget, like, I walked into a drill, like a random drill on a PWS night, and he goes, Dave Destruction, right? And I was like, yep, right? He goes, maybe it's time you live up to the fucking name. I don't know, right? And to me, I was just like, man, Danny Moff's about to beat my ass and bring this all out of me. But like, that's what he did for me back then. And then when I tore my ACL and I was down and out for a year, he called me every day, Josh, every day to check on my mentals. He knows the knee was going to heal itself and things were going to work, but he wanted to make sure I was not spinning off the planet. And then for me to give him a chance to become an inaugural champion for my company, it all comes full circle. And it's just a crazy part of this business where, and I know, again, this has been like Ramble episode 101 here, but like, this is the kind of shit that like Triple H is starting to try to do for these people. Like, we see you out there, indies. We see what you're doing. We see that you're trying. Remember, this was a foreign affair with WWE independence. They wanted nothing. They weren't even referring to the independents at all for a long, long time, if not the entire existence of the WWE. They wanted nothing to do with anybody's backstory of where they came from. Now, dude, they want to know the first independent you worked at. They want to know the first ring you worked in, right? They want to, like, it's just a crazy, crazy transition that Triple H has taken. And again, everybody else, TKO, whoever is involved in all this, like production and progression, but like, he's the reason why this is happening now. So if you, as a promoter or a wrestler or a manager or a ref or a commentator, now is the time, man, to make sure that you're on your P's and your Q's and you're making sure that you are giving everything you got, every performance, because now it's like Santa Claus. He's always watching. You don't know where he is, right?
Yeah.
But you want those gifts on Christmas, and that gift could be a contract one day if you just play your cards right. So,
and it's true, too. Referees and stuff like that, you know, fans might not realize it, but a guy like Triple H or a William Regal or anybody else who's, you know, scouting people, keeping an eye on the ID talent, right? Man, if you're a referee for an ID match, you think they're not going to notice you? Not to put pressure on, but they're going to notice if you suck. And they're going to notice if they don't notice you, which is a really good thing as a referee, right? So, yeah, man, I mean, if you look, for me, if I found out that I was going to be managing, let's say it's Danny Moff against somebody with WWE ID, right? And I'm managing Moff. That's the most important match of my entire career right there, right? Because the odds are, those are the best odds that someone from WWE is watching me because I'm managing, because I'm around ringside, right? Am I distracting from this match? Are they noticing me in a bad way? Or did I do just the right thing in the match where they go, hey, that really added to it. Hey, that guy was in the right spot at the right time. Huh, he was pretty good. We're not going to hire him, but he was pretty good. You know, so, but it's, to your point, commentators, right? If they're watching, hey, we got to watch this video, see this guy, oh, he had a hell of a match, and they have to mute you, dude, that's not good, right? But imagine guys like us have that opportunity, and we're calling that match, and they're watching it, and maybe we say something that gets a chuckle, or gets like a, oh, that was a good line that he just said. There are worse things that can happen than being associated.
I spoke to Crowbar last night on the phone, and he finally got a chance to watch his. Yeah, he finally got a chance to watch his match back against Anthony Green, and he was like, the first thing he told me is like, "You guys, thank you so much for making me feel like a rock star." And I was like, and I even made sure I was like, "Did you hear when Josh referred to AG with all his gear and like he looks like a young Crowbar and is that?" He goes, "Yeah, dude, I picked up on that right away. That was great call by Josh." And I was like, I at that moment, like there's moments where me and you are working together and we're just like yin and yang, but there's also moments where I'm just like, when you say something, most of the time it makes me laugh, but if you drop a line and I'm just like, I'll pause for a second, I'm like, that was really good. You know what I mean? Like,
likewise,
that was a good comparison there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that was dynamite drop in. So
no, look,
but yeah,
likewise,
dude, you got to make sure you're on your game now going forward, no matter what.
You have to, and at the same time, make sure you're on your game for the talent too, because, you know, when Crowbar reached out to me as well, and like, that means so much, not because I'm not sitting there, oh, Crowbar thinks I'm good. Like, trust me, I'm also thinking that because I'm like, that's awesome because here's a guy I've watched for so many years. And here's a guy that behind the scenes I have so much respect for as a human being, let alone as a talent. But I'm also looking at that going like, that's our job. Somebody actually paid us to be there. A promoter paid us to do a job. And when the talent comes back and says, thank you for how you did your job to enhance me and my match, that feels good, because now you're turning around going, oh, I guess I did a good job and more people will want me to do this job that I love doing, right? So it's, again, to circling back to everything you said, this has an opportunity to step up everyone's game up, and not just if there's a WWE ID thing on there. Man, step it up, because you don't know how you just contribute as best you possibly can. Learn, keep learning, keep studying. If you're in the ring, if you're a referee, if you're a manager, a commentator, a ring announcer, whatever it is, the reality is no matter what any of us are doing, there is video and audio footage of somebody doing it better than us. So go watch that, right? I don't care who you are, what wrestler you are, what manager, what commentator, what ring announcer. There's a Howard Finkel for the ring announcer. There's an Earl Hebner for the referee. Right? Just keep studying and getting better. And this day and age, man, if you have an opportunity, now it's turned into a whole, I'm just pep talking you, but but if you have an opportunity to learn from someone, to be in a locker room, to have a conversation with a crowbar or something like that, like the next time I talk to him, one of the things I want to ask him is like, thank you. Was there anything that stood out to you that I could have done differently? Right?
Or better. Yeah.
But that's right. Differently, better, whatever the case might be. Is there anything that stood out to you? Because as much as I love the thank you for doing a great job, I also want to know, like, oh man, you loved 97% of what I did. Can you let me know that other 3%? Like, I would love to work on that other 3%.
And much like you said before about weeding out, either the bad wrestling promotions or the fans or whatever the case may be, this is also going to weed out the people that just don't want it as bad as the other ones. And that's fine. Like, for me, that's totally fine. Because I look at this like, my favorite quarterback in the NFL right now, Rain Dakota Prescott. He once said, pressure is privilege, right? And he's not the only one to say that, but I'm just saying that's what stuck with me. Yeah. Pressure is privilege. And for you to have the pressure now put on you, that's an honor, right? That's an honor to have the pressure put on you. And it's either time to dial it up, or look, there's no shame in saying, like, you know what? Things are getting way too intense for me right now. It's not for me. So leave. That's it.
Yeah.
There are unfortunately, a million independent wrestlers right now. There are. And
when we're, sorry, cut you off there, but when we were doing, when we had the opportunity to do commentary for GCW at the Hammerstein for that pre-show, and you and I were doing commentary there, and Brett Lauderdale several times, because he didn't, I guess he was, Brett's moving. He's like a one-man machine. And so instead of going, like, he's not on the headset going to me because he's got 1,000 other conversations he's having. So he would keep like tapping me on the shoulder and pulling me off to give me like notes to kind of bring back to you and Nate Webb and to put in there, oh, mention this, don't mention that, do this, do that. Yeah, right. Whatever it is. Afterwards, he goes to me, he's like, I'm sorry I kept, pulling you and like all that. And I was just like, no, man, it was great. Because to me, the easy thing is sitting there and just calling a match. We'll make up our own shit. The difficult thing is calling that match seamlessly while being interrupted numerous times by the only one in the building whose opinion actually matters, right? Right. Outside from the fans, I guess, right? But the only one who what we say, Brett Lauderdale is the only one who I cared about, that he was happy about how the job we did. So the fact that we were able to seamlessly continue to go while being pulled aside and all that, that's like you talked about the pressure. And personally, I love that. I absolutely, I think I thrive on it. Maybe someone's listening. They're like, nah, man, he's really bad when it's under pressure. But I love that. I think you thrive on that as well. Like,
Yeah.
It's throw that shit at us and let me prove to you that I belong here, you know? And then, I mean, I thought that was great. So yeah, I agree with, I feel like it was probably like a Jalen Hurts thing first, that comment.
Love hurts. Yeah.
But no, but I love that. I think that that's true. And it's how you get better.
And it's, you know, bringing it all together. Today, we dove into a lot of the happenings of WWE. Next week, obviously, with Elimination Chamber on the horizon, we'll make some predictions. We'll give you some, you know, storylines of where we think WrestleMania is heading towards. There's a lot going on in the world of professional wrestling. And again, this isn't a WWE show. It is a professional wrestling show that we feel that WWE is the talk of the town right now. And if AEW wants to step their shit up and
give us something to talk about.
I'm talking
about them on So Says Shernoff. It's just I'm recording that this week. That's gonna be out later this week or next week. And we talk all about, you know, ring size. And is it important? Is the size of the ring what matters?
I cannot
or is it
I can't believe the
discourse about that.
Yeah.
So like, here's where I get to sit back and go, thank God I brought back So Says Shernoff, because the only thing that keeps my head from exploding is that I know I get to write a satirical wrestling news show about that topic, which is tremendous. And it's
unbelievable. I've never seen anything like I even said to the boys, you know, the Tommies and Chris Payne, I said, man, I don't read the dirt sheets. I just choose not to. Sometimes I'll read SAP stuff just to kind of, you know, stay in tune with what's going on. But like, dude, the news going around about a ring size and a ring rental.
Like,
I'm like, holy hell! Like, you.
And I'm looking at that going,
and
like,
and again, like I didn't know this. I didn't know any of the ring size drama until today. But like 2 days ago, I'm like, whoa! Did anybody else hear them singing Edge's Adam Copeland song as a? I'm like, that's so cool. Like that's the Australian crowd. That's the stuff that they needed. AEW needed a moment like that. You know what I mean? Like where people are just like, wow, we really give a shit about this.
Then it's like, oh, the ring is the wrong. It's like, dude, listen, you've had a show.
Get off it.
You've had a show where you show up and it's like, oh, well, this ring, yeah, it's kind of went like an in between. It's not exactly the size, you know, where you're expecting an 18, you get a 16, or you're expecting a 16, you get an 18, and something doesn't fit. Welcome to the business. And the reality is they're not WWE. They don't tour overseas in the same way. They're not sticklers for having their own ring. So they got a ring from somewhere else. Do you think GCW owns their own ring? Like they may have one somewhere.
It's fucking Chad.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Which I mean, but it's not just his. You think he's bringing his everywhere?
No,
they're going to Alaska. You think he's bringing his ring? Hell no.
Dude, they were in Hawaii. You know what I mean? So like,
they're going to show up and it's going to be what it's going to be. And
they're not checking this with their bags. Like, oh, here's your luggage. Oh, wow, this is a ring.
Nick Dinsmore told me once when I was in OVW and Nick was one of my trainers down there. Oh, Eugene. He went and worked a show on the Indies and he comes back and we're down there. He's talking to everybody and he's like, first thing I do when I'm working a show, an indie show somewhere, is I walk the ring. He's like, I start in the beginning, like the beginning of the match. Even he's like, if I haven't had an opportunity to get in there earlier in the day, I'll start the match. I'll kind of lean back on the ropes. I'll, do that. And he's like, I'm testing this out. What does this feel like? Oh, that's a little dip in the ring there. Not going to bump over there. He goes, and I walked around this ring and I thought, I'm not bumping tonight. And he's like, and I did the entire match. He's like, did not bump once. He's like, and nobody noticed because he's that good. But that's just it. Like, it's the fans. Do you think any no one gave a shit? None of the wrestlers.
I need to know the goober that was in the crowd. It was like, ring kind of looks a little small, like, and just
and listen, that's fine for the fans.
Onslaught.
That's fine for the fans to be to
First of all, the
fans
fans shouldn't say a goddamn word about the professional wrestling ring. You never step foot in one, so you don't know how it feels. Like, you just stop. Stop. Yeah. Stay on your fucking side of the guardrail, for Christ's sake. Anyway, that'll do it. That'll do it for an episode of the Wrestling Hour. We hope you guys enjoyed this on adfreeshows.com first. And of course, you can check us out every week. We drop our episodes on Wednesdays, and of course on Thursdays. You can catch us on the MyFandom YouTube channel, which has a plethora of great programming, including my show, the Fight Factory Wrestling Podcast. And you can check Cards Subject to Change with said Danny Moff, Sean Donovan, and Darius Carter.
What a
great show.
What a good show, man.
Yeah, great show they got going on over there. And it's produced over at Chop Studios. So anyway, that wasn't an ad.
When are we doing a joint like presentation? The Wrestling Hour.
We have to.
Cards Subject to Change.
Have to. We gotta get like multiple boxes and shit. Yeah. Or we could all just be at the studio and riff.
Do that?
Let's just do it.
Oh,
let's do it. So yeah. So for Dave Sturchio and Josh Shernoff, we hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you next week for our preview of WWE Elimination Chamber. See you guys next